Good morning and welcome back to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of the Arsenal Transfer Show, in which we look at the latest Arsenal transfer news, break it down, try to make some sense of it, and get your thoughts as well in our live chat box too. And obviously today is the day after the night before, from an England perspective, in which we managed somehow, against all the odds, to go through top of the group, which was great. I am an England fan. I've put this forward. I'm not your... I don't know what it is. I feel like it's fashionable sometimes, especially even from if you're English, to not support the England national team. It's almost a trend to do it. And I'm not really on that side of things. I appreciate a lot of other nations. I watch a lot of other nations' football, but still very much English and would like the England national team to do well. So it's coming home, is what it is. It's coming home. Anyway, there is a lot to talk about in regards to that, actually, and specifically the performance of this man, Bukayo Saka, who was absolutely awesome in the game. No specific goals or assists, raw stats to speak of, but his energy, the way in which he just cut apart the Czech Republic defence, the way he combined with Jack Grealish, it was annoyingly good to see him play so well with Jack Grealish. To know that that's never going to happen, really, from an Arsenal perspective anyway, is quite sad. I mean, we can dream. But I just, it's just not realistic, is it? And I mean, the way that Aston Villa are going, maybe they'll put in a bid for Saka at this rate. But fantastic congratulations to Saka on winning the star of the match in the game. And I'm fingers crossed he plays in the next round, because he deserves to, as does Grealish. And he's done a lot more than a lot of the other players have done in the tournament. So not for the fact they've not been picked, obviously, there is that. Talking about Jadon Sancho. But massive congratulations to Saka. And I look forward to seeing him in the next round and back at Arsenal next season for the push towards European qualification, fingers crossed. Let's go on to our main transfer stories then, and we start off with Granit Xhaka, the Swiss midfielder. Honestly, this story, I feel like I've used his name in a show. This is the 51st show, and I must have covered him on half of them, surely. Anyway, Dimarzio tweeted out yesterday that basically a deal is, guess what? Imminent, is what we're told, as it seemingly has been since before the Euros began. And I know Switzerland have now gone through to the next round, and maybe it will take Switzerland getting knocked out for this to finally be confirmed. But I just want this to be done and over and finished. I'm just sick of it, really. I really am sick of talking about Granit Xhaka's deal nearly happening. But yeah, talks, Drizzy in the chat, talks have progressed, FC. That is Arsenal in a nutshell right now. So fingers crossed we can see this one finally getting done, because I'm sick and tired of bringing it up every single show, because something new comes forward, and that something new is the same thing that we've heard every single time. Anyway, this is something new. Nikolaj Moller, who is the Swedish striker, the next Zlatan Ibrahimovic, if you will, at Arsenal. Apparently he is garnering quite a lot of interest from European clubs. Arsenal have made him available for a loan this season after having a very decent first season for the under-23. So he looks like he's going to be off, and he's certainly someone that we're going to be keeping an eye on to see how he gets on a more of a senior level. I hope he gets to go to kind of a very decent club in a top tier of a continental league to really kind of cut his teeth, I suppose, in that sort of senior level where he's only really been playing for us and for Malmo previously in kind of the youth systems. So it'd be a great opportunity to see Nikolaj Moller play in a senior position. So that's going to be great. So keep your eyes peeled to see where he goes. But the latest rumours is that lots of European clubs are interested in taking him on loan for next season. So we will have to see how that pans out. Let's go on to Emil Smith-Rowe once again. Aston Villa are touted to return with yet another bid for Smith-Rowe. And I know this story divides opinion. It certainly divided me amongst a lot of you guys, I think, when it first came out. And whilst I was sitting there going, I'm a little bit worried about this, not worried in the sense that I think he'll leave or that Aston Villa will buy him. I'm worried in the sense that there are clubs that believe that it's now okay to start bidding. I mean, when you think about it, even 6-7 years ago, you didn't see clubs like Aston Villa, clubs that we would consider on a lower level to us in the most respectful way possible, like bidding for our players. It didn't happen. You didn't see it, mostly because Aston Villa was still trying to get out of the Championship at that time. But the point stands that these clubs who are looking at Arsenal as basically the breakaway from the pack in not a good sense, that they can overtake us, that they can get into the position of trying to become in that or get into that top 6 that Leicester have, of course, already. So Arsenal need to fend this one off. I don't want to see any entertaining of bids whatsoever. And if Arsenal end up selling him, it would be absolutely catastrophic. But Arsenal really certainly need to hold off that interest and get this guy signed up to a new 5-year deal. Aston Villa certainly are taking advantage of the fact that they know Arsenal are in contract talks with Smith-Rowe and his representatives, but they are expected to come back with a 30 million plus bids for Smith-Rowe, and it seems to be one that isn't going away. But I think I collectively speak for us all when I say do one, Aston Villa. Do one. Moving on to our kind of main transfer possible out story. We touched upon this a lot in the 2 shows that we did yesterday. I did a show with Elliot from the Arsenal Vision podcast. We spoke about Saliba. I then did the Arsenal Transfer podcast with Joe, with Zamir and with Drew, and we talked a lot about Saliba. In fact, we did a whole half an hour segment on William Saliba if you want to go and check that out. But I don't really feel like I got to get my kind of thoughts and feelings out about this one, and I will talk about it a bit more probably in the Q&A section when we get your thoughts. But the rumours are, according to Chris Wheatley, that he is considering his options is what he's put out, which I find it staggering that only a month ago we were hearing reports from very legitimate people saying that the expectation is Saliba would come back and he would be assessed in pre-season. Now, whether the interest in Ben White and that's very public has made Saliba change his mind, that the fact that the club are going out and spending a big money signing on a centre-back has changed his perspective on his chances at the club next season. If it's from his perspective, if it's Saliba going, right, looking at Ben White and coming in and going, oh, they're going to go and buy a £50 million centre-back, so, I might as well go try and cut my teeth elsewhere. That in that sense, it disappoints me, because I think I'd rather see him go, you know what, I don't care if Arsenal are signing a £50 million player. I want to go and give it my absolute all and fight for my place in the team. There's also the other side, which is Arteta. We don't know wholly, we don't know like definitively his final views on the guy. We know speculatively what he thinks. We know from what we hear from him in these post-match press conferences and normal press conferences what he thinks of the player, which is always that he's our player and they'll make an assessment of him, etc. But all the evidence and all of the kind of signals that we're getting tell us that he's not that keen on him, and he should be given a chance. And I've always said that I think the kid needs to be given a chance. And he's not being given that. And I hope he wants to come back and really try and fight for his place, rather than just seeing Ben White being linked and going, not for me, I'm going to go somewhere else. I'd rather it wasn't that attitude, but we don't know, ultimately. We simply don't know. Let's go on to the possible ins, and then we'll get all of your thoughts and feelings in the chat box after we've covered those. So you may have seen this yesterday. Z on Twitter, obviously somebody who tweets out a lot of Arsenal news, and with their sources, like they tweet out the links to where the information's come from. And in this case, it was a tweet which related to, I think it was Calcio that tweeted it out anyway, or Di Mercato, that tweeted out about Aaron Ramsey's kind of desire to return to Arsenal. Anyway, his one of his representatives actually replied to the tweet saying, "I'm sorry, but can you stop making things up, please? There is no shred of truth in your tweet," which makes the tweet seem as if that's not what the article said. And I haven't been able to read the article, so I can't verify that. So maybe someone in the chat box can. But the tweet from Z basically said that there is a desire on Ramsey's part to return to Arsenal, and it referenced through Sport Witness, who was the other website that tweeted out the information, what it was. So I felt a bit sorry, in a sense, for Z, because he's not and we have a right go at attacking, or not attacking, it's probably the wrong word, at judging, at laughing at ITK. It's not, Z isn't one of those. Z is your tweeting the news and referencing the sources of where the information came from. So I felt a bit bad, because obviously then Chris Wheatley said that this is one of Aaron Ramsey's agents, denies reports linking the Juventus midfielder with a return to Arsenal. So I'm glad about that. I didn't want to see Ramsey back at Arsenal. I love Ramsey. I think I really appreciate everything he did for us at Arsenal, but I think that ship has certainly sailed, and I think it's one that we don't really need to go back to. And I wish him the absolute best if he does return to England. As long as it's not with one of our rivals, I'm absolutely fine with it. Go and do you, Ramsey, because you deserve to finish your career strongly because of what you've given to the club, and I think you haven't been given a fair shot at Juve, so we'll see. Guido Rodriguez is our penultimate story of the day. Of course, the Real Betis Argentinian midfielder is away with the Argentina national team at the moment, to the best of my knowledge, and is getting on with things. But he's had a really good season with Real Betis last year. He came in actually from Mexico, playing for Club America, and has gone on leaps and bounds since then. And we have been linked with him throughout the window. We had some early links in one of the earliest videos that we did in the Arsenal Transfer Show series. Supposedly, Arsenal are still very much leading the race, is what it's described as by a few reports, to sign Guido Rodriguez. Does that mean that he's going to be coming in? Of course not. We don't know what that means. It could mean absolutely anything. It's very vague in terms of a report about him. But the fact that Arsenal are interested in him doesn't really surprise me. He's a good player. He's someone that I'd be interested in, but only for the right price. And there was original prices of around €40 million plus being touted. Now there's reports of around £26 million, which is a lot more reasonable. And I would be willing to entertain that kind of offer. But I also think there is other options out there, like your Basumas, like your Neves, that would be more, say, interesting over a move for Guido Rodriguez. Now we move on to our final story of the day, which is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. According to the Telegraph, Arsenal are tracking the situation, and even Everton are willing to actually let Dominic Calvert-Lewin leave. Whether or not they'd be willing to let him leave to one of their direct rivals for a European place in Arsenal is yet to be seen. But interestingly, there was a few tweets. I saw LT put out a tweet yesterday saying, would you rather Isaac, Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Andre Silva with certain prices? And I did find it quite staggering how many people just kind of shunned Calvert-Lewin for 10 million more than Alexander Isak as well. I mean, I look at that as very much recency bias of seeing Isak in the European Championships score. I mean, has he even scored? I don't think he's scored. I think he's played quite well, but I don't think he's scored yet. And whereas Dominic Calvert-Lewin, whilst not playing because of obviously Harry Kane being there, has had an excellent season for Everton, has done really well for them. And is Premier League proven, young, English, and whilst, yes, would cost a lot of money. I'll bring us back to the point, if we get all of our targets, and I'm trying to assess players purely on their merit and not their position and where our priorities lie, I would 100% be up for Dominic Calvert-Lewin coming to Arsenal. It's a long-term striking kind of position for us. He would come in, he would be our striker for the next indefinite amount of years. And it makes a lot of sense, and it would be someone that I'd be very interested in Arsenal pursuing. Obviously, I'd like us to pursue other areas of the pitch first to make sure that we get in the centre mids, get in the right back, get in the attacking midfielder, get in the backup left back, the goalkeeper, etc. And then you can think about moving on Lacazette and bringing in a striker, be it Calvert-Lewin or someone else. But this is a real good opportunity, and I think maybe it's being overlooked actually by quite a lot of people, which is a shame because it's funny how quickly you can go off someone just because there's a new flavour of the month, in this case it being Isaac, who I'd like a lot. But if there's a choice, if there's a straight choice between Alexander Isak and Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I don't think it's even close of what I would pick, because it's clearly the English striker. So a very strange one. We'll see how this develops. I would be very shocked if it did happen, but the rumour is there, the link is there. And so that concludes kind of all of our talk today. Obviously, nothing about Ben White, nothing about Maddison. I'm not just going to throw news at you if it's just not out there. And there is no updates on Maddison. There is no updates on Ben White. There's no updates on Bissouma. There's nothing like that, I'm afraid. Nothing on them. And I'm not going to throw it into a thumbnail to try and get your attention if there's no news, and there isn't any news about those guys this morning. So fingers crossed we can get some updates on those guys very soon, but nothing right now. Anyway, we move on to the final part of the show, which is, of course, getting your thoughts and feelings in the chat box. So let's have a look at what you guys are saying. If you want to bring the conversation back around to the Saliba talk, if you want to talk about Calvert-Lewin, then let's start throwing in what you guys are saying. Jason wants Calvert-Lewin, Maddison, Ben White and Aarons. That's a whole English kind of core being added back to the team in one transfer window. So Hill says, Tom, would you start Saka in the next game? I love how Southgate adores him. I certainly would, mate, 100%. Morning, Ross. Good to have in the chat, mate. Mitchell says, I spoke to my Everton friend and he said Arsenal would be a sideways step. I disagree completely. What do you think? I don't think it'd be a sideways step. It might be a sideways step in the context of what that gives you in regards to European football. Everton don't have it. Arsenal don't have it. It's a sideways step for that sense. But Arsenal are in a much more likely position to get European football next season than Everton are. So I think that it wouldn't be a sideways step, and I think it would be an opportunity to be more likely to win trophies than Arsenal. It's certainly a step up from Everton still. Vinny says, Tom, you have called out ITKs for making up stories. How is Chris Wheatley's tweet any different? It's an easy story to make up. and an easy story to brush off. It doesn't come to fruition. Is that the Saliba thing I'm assuming you're talking about? It's a good question, Vinny. What's the difference between a verified reporter tweeting out a story or writing an article to a sub 10,000 account tweeting out information about Arsenal, I don't know, going for Camavinga or going for just stepping up their interest or putting a figure on a price for White? What's the difference? Obviously, Vinny, the initial difference is track record, is the fact that this is a reporter with genuine sources linked into clubs, into agents, into players. And it is funny how quickly you build up a base of contacts just by being in that business, and specifically. That's the difference for me, is that there is obvious, and I think also Saliba's reps and Saliba's camp are quite vocal. Even I was able to write an exclusive story end of last year about the French Cup situation because of how loud the information comes out from the Saliba camp. And it is, I think, a legit story. I think that his sources are very much shown to be a verified part of the information coming out of that area. And it's relatively easy to obtain information about the Saliba thing because of how loud that camp is and how open they are to talking about him and him himself talking about things. But it's fair. And I mean, if you want, Vinny, and it's completely your right to do so, treat every single piece of information, whether it's from an account with barely a follower to your 100,000+ follower accounts that are verified, then that's completely fair. If your rhetoric is, I'm not going to trust any info until I see a player holding up the shirt on the Arsenal official website, that is your safest bet. And one way to stay very de-stressed in the transfer window, for sure. So maybe this isn't for you, Vinny, this kind of show, because we don't do that at all. But no, it's a good question. Social says, Tom, do you think Stan has put Arsenal's transfer funds into crypto in the hope to double his money, but it's crashed, hence why we haven't signed anyone? I mean, wow, crypto. We're going to talk about crypto all of a sudden. That's not my field of expertise. I know it's tongue-in-cheek, Social, but I genuinely don't believe Stan's putting any money into the club this summer. We might spend 150, 200 million, you never know, but I don't believe any of that will come from the owner. As far as and to the best of my knowledge, it will come from within the club. It will come from the club's revenue, the club's money, not investment, not funds being transferred from his pocket into the club's pockets. Hasn't happened, isn't happening. So yeah, we will see. Michael Montreal says, Arteta ball, like crying laughing face. I mean, we'll see. Next season, we never know what's going to happen. No, Matt, they don't, and it's rather amusing. Alan says, Tom, who impressed you the most in the Euros and whom are not linked to Arsenal, and and who would you love to bring in? Who is not linked to Arsenal that I've liked watching? Of all the teams so far, I've liked, besides his own goal, how effective Rafa Guerreiro was against Hungary in the first game, and I thought he had some bright sparks, but I'm not sure he's the right player for Arsenal to go for in that left-back role, to be honest. I think he wouldn't move to be a backup to Tierney. Who else have I liked watching? I've liked Moller, the left-back, who's actually a right-back for Denmark, for Atalanta, I believe. He's looked very good for them and looks quite good. Who else have I liked? Obviously, there's plenty in the Belgian team that are ripping up. Denaya's, I really enjoyed Denaya, although he's had a couple of iffy moments, but I have liked some of the kind of the playing out from the back and the confidence on the ball that he's had. The French national team, looking at them, I talked about looking at Tolisso. I've liked looking at Skriniar from Slovakia, who's had a really good tournament too. Robin Gosens from Germany has been very good as well. Lots of players that we haven't been linked to that I would like to see linked. But yeah, plenty going on at the moment. Tom, have we been successfully linked to 100 players yet? I'm not actually keeping track of the specific... Oh, that's a lie. We actually are keeping track because at the end of June, we'll have our update show on who we've been linked to. Yes, Alan, Spinazzola is another good shout, actually. Very much so. Russ says Patrick Schick is different kind of striker. I've liked watching him. It's interesting because his performances for the Czech Republic have been quite different to that from what I've seen him playing for Leverkusen or Leipzig or Roma. Rather different, massively so. Jashar says, Tom, do you trust Arteta with the man management of our young players' developments? It's mixed, isn't it? Because we've seen the likes of Saka, Smith-Rowe improve under Arteta, but we've then seen the situations that we found ourselves in with Saliba and Guendouzi, which have not been anywhere near as effective and really worrying, in fact. And you've also got him not using, say, I think there's been opportunities to give Reece Nelson minutes when he hasn't done. And whilst I have my reservations about Reece Nelson, there's been no opportunity for him to prove me wrong because Arteta's chosen to throw Willian on in games where we were winning or we were really badly losing, and you could have given minutes to Reece Nelson and he didn't. So it's very mixed. There's been some improvement of some of the kids. And then there's Martinelli as well, who's not been given as many chances as he should have done. So it's very mixed and not in a positive way right now. Jasmine says, Tom, why is Saliba not being linked to other top teams if he's so good? Even Liverpool went for Konate rather than Saliba. Could it be Arteta doesn't see him ready for Arsenal's level of football? I think it's because of the club that he's at. I think if we were talking about Saliba that was still at Saint-Etienne or was actually at Nice and played the season that he had at Nice last season, I think you would see top clubs linked to him. Because I think they know that he's at Arsenal, and Arsenal aren't going to want to necessarily entertain offers from other big teams, that's why you're not seeing it. And very much it's at the moment a loan situation, which only works really for those other teams. You're not going to be a big club wanting to develop. I don't say big club, I mean those that are obviously in the Champions League right now. Arsenal have done that because of the financial situation they find themselves in with Sabas and with Erdegaard, etc. But you're not going to see your Cities, your Juves, your PSGs wanting to take Saliba on loan and just a raw loan, no obligation, no option to buy. It doesn't make any sense for them to do that. So I think that's probably why you're not seeing any of those links. Satvik says, are the Sterling Mahrez rumours agent kind of boosted? It certainly seems that way. Look, the Sterling Mahrez thing, which reared its head yesterday and I was reluctant to talk about, was I just don't really see any truth in it. I think it's a little bit clickbaity right now. And I'd be shocked if they move to Arsenal, either of them. Would I take either of them? I think they improve us, both of them. I don't really particularly like Sterling this tournament. I don't think he's deserved the minutes, but for City, he tends to come good in club football. It's international football where he struggled more so. So I would take both of them. And I think they improve on what we've got. But I think there are other positions, and I know we talk about that. But with these two positions, the wide areas, we're very well stocked. We've got a lot of options and a lot of young players that I want to see given more minutes. And I'd rather see top quality added to midfield, defence, attacking midfield, arguably striker as well, backup left back, backup goalkeeper, than looking at a wide player. I don't think we necessarily need to. Dan, it may have done, and we'll have to revisit that at another show. And obviously, we'll do our update show on kind of where we see the team for next season at the end of this month, which is in a week's time. We'll do another show maybe next Wednesday, actually, to talk about this. Christian says the media love the trigger words, and we obviously like to see them clickbait and fake news all the time. It makes it hard to believe anything. You just need to be careful, Christian, about the types of outlets that you look to, and you need to make sure you cross-reference the sources, see if it's being spoken about anywhere else, speak to experts, see if anyone within the local media of that club or that nation is saying anything about those stories, and but it takes time and effort to really work out and separate the wheat from the chaff, as they say. So plenty of things to sort out, and it takes a long time to do that. Vinny says if City get Grealish, he is a massive upgrade on Sterling, 100%. Kaleidoscope says Saliba hype really frustrates me, Tom. Why do we want a disruptive personality in the team with a loud camp as well? We need a change in the culture and the mentality of the team. The thing is that obviously we've heard the interviews, obviously we've heard stories come out about him, but we've never seen him play, and until I see that, I can't balance my view. I've seen him play for Nice, sure, but I haven't seen him play for Arsenal, and I can't balance my view about having a character that's maybe a little bit loud, which is, it's not ideal, but it's not a write-off. It depends on what they say, and I don't think he said things that are enough for me to go, you know what, I'm willing to just sell you right now for the things that you've said /done. I want to see him play so I can balance my view and understand if he is really worth it and if he could mellow a bit as well. And if him playing will allow him to kind of, smooth out some of the rough edges that we've got at the moment. But until we see that, we just don't know right now. Dyer says, what do you think about the whole Saliba situation and the way Arteta's handled it? We've talked about it a lot. I think Arteta's handled it really poorly. I think the club's handled it really poorly. Not getting him the loan at the start of last season to really give him a chance to show off what he's capable of, and not coming out and actually definitively allowing the fan base to know what's going to happen with him is also a big problem. This is Alex says, how about Tarkowski from Burnley, Premier League, experienced, English, and has one more year left on his deal? Would be a smart pick. Not for me, Alex. And I was speaking to a Wolves friend of mine the other day who Wolves are being linked to Tarkowski and they aren't interested. They're like, we don't need another. You've got Connor Cody. You don't need another just an English bruiser was the words that he described in a centre-back. He's not going to help us play out from the back. He's not of the style that we need. We need someone that's going to help us connect the defence to the midfield, and I don't think Tarkowski is that. Salvik says, Tom, what's the Ozil Kolasinac contract situation? Any of them terminated, or are we still paying the wages? Well, obviously, Kolasinac was only on loan, so Kolasinac has come back. He is still our player for another year. Ozil's contract officially expires at the end of this month, so we won't be paying any more of Ozil's wages after June. So that's done, gone, finished, over, as far as I'm aware, unless we are somehow paying more after he leaves, but that'd be ridiculous, surely. So Kolasinac is still here. We'll be paying his wages in full until we move him on. Supposedly the likes of Trabzonspor, Lazio, Napoli are all interested. So fingers crossed we can get him out of the club as soon as very possible. Joshua says, Tom, I think it's very subjective, but how long do you give a player to make a judgment? Well, we haven't given him anything if we're talking about Saliba so far. We haven't given him any time at all on the pitch to make a judgment. I think you have to give him at least 10 games until you really can build up a good opinion of how they are and how they're developing. Surely 10 games is enough. Is a pre-season enough? Is friendlies enough? I'm not sure that it is. And so I feel like we should keep him this season and see how he gets on. Manuel says, I feel the need to defend Saliba. Who has he got to calm his personality down? He's a 19-year-old who is already better than the clowns next to him. He needs an older head next to him. Sambi has got Partey next to him. And he will come into a team without David Luiz, without any experienced head besides Holding and Marie, who, let's face it, he is probably better than. So that's a really tough situation if you are a very confident guy and you've got no one above you and no one that's better than you in your mind and has the right in some sense to tell you how you should be doing, how you should be improving your game when you think and believe you're better than what's already there. And that must be a really difficult situation, a real difficult situation. Drucy says, all quiet on the Willian front. Yeah, it's gone very quiet, but we were assured by Fab that he is 100%. There is no doubt from Fabrizio that he is going to leave. So that will be a sword that he could fall on as a reporter. We will wait and see. Nothing with Leno so far in terms of his links. I've seen some comments about him. Cornelius says Saliba hasn't done anything wrong. I wouldn't go that far. This club has handled the situation badly and sums up our business over the last 10 years. I mean, I wouldn't say he's done nothing wrong. I mean, there's a very obvious thing that he's done wrong that we're not going to go into the details of. And I think that some of the things that have come out in interviews and some of the openness to leak information from his camp, which is also very clear, is an issue. But in regards to football, no, he hasn't done anything wrong. He's done nothing wrong in his performances to show why he shouldn't be playing, really. He showed a little bit of immaturity playing in the under-23s, but when you apply the context of that situation, which is he really going to be that bothered when he's cost 28 million quid playing for the youth team? I mean, it's a bit of a joke if you're being real. So that's a shame. That's a shame. Is Dominic Calvert-Lewin tactical breakdown on its way? If I probably will do. I just feel like I need to see a little bit more legitimacy to some of the reports, but we'll wait and see on that one. But yeah, I'll probably get round to making one. Sarvik says Chambers and El Neni are on their last year here. Well, apparently Chambers may have an option. We'll wait and see. What would you do with those two if you were Arteta? It depends on who we bring in midfield. At the moment, you have to keep any because we just don't have the depth. If we bring in a couple of midfielders, then yeah, I'd be more open to selling them, depending on who those midfielders are. Because if one's going to the African Cup of Nations, of which El Neni is too, to be fair. So I mean, maybe it doesn't matter too much. But if we bring in a couple of midfielders, then I'd be more open to seeing El Neni go. It depends on Joe Willock's future as well. Chambers, I think, is a better backup right back option than Cedric. So I would keep Chambers and sell Cedric. And I'll probably give Chambers a new deal to be the backup to the right back that we are going to hopefully bring in this window. Kevin says Saliba has played in the under-23s last season, so the club might have a good view on him. What's your take? Again, I think when you apply the context of him being a £28 million player playing in a youth team, I don't think you're going to see a very genuine kind of example of what he's capable of, to be honest. That is probably where we're going to finish off today's show. We will see where we move on from here. Tomorrow's show, hopefully we can give you some more good news about some more players. And of course, there's some big games in the European Championships this evening with all of the big guns from Group F playing too. If you've enjoyed the show, please make sure you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. There may be another show a little bit later on this morning / early afternoon. I'll let you know on the Twitter. You can follow us at the Gooner Talk TV and at Tom Canton Media. But other than that, I'll see you again very, very soon, guys. And as always, up the Arsenal.